Hello and welcome to this presentation. Today, I would like to talk to you about validation of computerized systems as a mandatory requirement for medicinal products approval. I would like to show you how we can help you in validating your systems, meeting all applicable regulations and standards. And also, this is a taste to give you a taste of what it will be an upcoming webinar on CSV introducing the concept of a risk-based approach. My name is Sara Levi, and I am the Senior Project Manager for CSV and Data Integrity at NESS. Here we have a high-level representation of the journey of a medical product. Everything begins with R&D, where no rules applies and everything is possible, so to speak. Then, when we leave the R&D paradise, we get into a world of regulation that should be met during the manufacturing, storage, distribution, and monitoring of our products if we would like to hit the market and if we would like our product to stay in the market. Evaluation and approval. Regulatory bodies will come into our facility and will evaluate data and information on safety and effectiveness. They want to see that the product is safe for consumption and use, and they do exactly what they are meant to do. They are going to check, of course, manufacturing and environmental conditions under which the product was created or manufactured. They're going to check benefits against risks. They want to see that the benefits of the product outweigh the risk introduced to the patient by using or consuming that specific product. And of course, they're going to monitor the life cycle of the product during their consumption or their use to see that no adverse events will arise. All these activities are generated by manual or automated transactions, and they generate data, and data should be documented. Then the regulations put into place several guidelines regarding good documentation practices that will provide me the means to demonstrate at any point and at any given point in time traceability of my events and accountability. Who did what and when and for what. Now, the way we have to demonstrate traceability and accountability in automated transactions is by implementing their mandatory requirements of the 21 CFR Part 11 or the Annex 11. Okay? Let's take now all the regulations, those coming from the FDA, those from the EMA, the rest of the world. There is one common requirement, one common mandatory requirement in their regulation, which is the validation of computerized systems used to support regulated activities, including those of the quality management system. Now, we also have all these international bodies like the PICS, the WHO, the MHRA from UK, and the GAMP, who recently published their guidelines for data integrity by design. And what they do, and those are the most common international bodies, what they do, they produce data integrity guidelines, regulations, and standards so we can comply with all those requirements when it comes to data integrity and prove that the data we show to tell our story is reliable. So if we take as an example the MHRA guideline and we see this clause, validation for intended purpose, we are going to see that they clearly define the scope of the vendor and the sponsor, which is the manufacturer, very clearly. The vendor will never provide a validated system. Instead, they will provide us with a qualified system, and it's our responsibility as a sponsor or manufacturer to take that system and validate the system into our facilities with our people, with our training, and with our data security infrastructure. Then we understand that the scope of qualification against the scope of validation, although they are used interchangeable, they are different. Qualification is a task-oriented activity. I'm checking the functionality of a system, for example, whereas validation is a process-oriented activity. I am taking this qualified system and I'm putting that into the context of my end-to-end process. That way, I'm validating the system for the intended use in the context of my end-to-end process. So this is validation against qualification, and we as a manufacturers are responsible to validate a system. Here we have the validation of computerized system lifecycle. Of course, I cannot get into details because that will be in the upcoming webinar we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. But I will give you a taste of every phase and what they are intended for. First of all, we create our validation project team, and that will include people from the business or SMEs from the business and SMEs from the validation team, IT, and QA. Then we'll define the criticality of our system based on the criteria of safety and efficacy. The higher the impact on safety and efficacy, the higher the risk that a specific system poses. Then, provided we declare that we use the GAMP 5 guideline to validate our systems, we categorize our system according to their type, okay, or according to the GAMP 5 categorization rules. That will give me the amount of documentation that I need to produce for every type of system. Then we do a gap analysis in terms of party level and data integrity requirements, and we check deeply the configuration of the system to see that we do not have any major gaps or blind spots in terms of party level and data integrity. We write our user and functional requirements, and we take advantage of that specific document to introduce the risk assessment process. We classify each requirement according to their criticality on safety and efficacy, and of course, on the intended use of the specific system. That will give me room and resources to perform a data integrity risk assessment, which is based on the intended use of the data that system generates, meaning which type of decisions do I make based on the data the system generates and how that decision and that data impact the safety and efficacy attributes of my product. Then I create the validation master plan, and then I tell how I'm going to validate my system, which approach I'm going to take. We, of course, create our validation protocols, we run those protocols, and we tell the story, how the validation went, which deviation did we found, and how did we remediate those deviations. And of course, then we release the system for formal use, and we begin the life cycle, the validated system life cycle, where the practices of change control come into place. This is it for today. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening. And please stay tuned. I have here my contact information, my email. You can submit any questions that you may have. And stay tuned for this our upcoming webinar on CSV practices, CSV lifecycle, and the introduction of risk-based approach. Thank you very much and have a wonderful and great day.